Yes, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the MOPAC study that's being commissioned. Um, it sounds like you're moving quite fast on that, and that you might already have a long list of options that you're looking at.
We've narrowed it down to about 3 organisations so far.
Sorry, a long list of options for study.
What we're doing is I'm talking to about 3 different organisations at the moment about we've gone to them with some terms of reference, but the terms of reference are quite high level and strategic. Given the kind of pressures in the timescale, the next stage will be to say to them, we want some outcomes which are deliverable next year. What is the capacity and capability of your organisation to deliver something along those lines? Could you produce for us, and I would be in a matter of a couple of weeks, a scoping study saying what you can achieve and how much the cost of that will be. We will then go back to the partners and say, these are the 2 or 3 options we've got. Which one do you want to go with? And then we will proceed, as I said, at pace. So we need an organisation that can deliver at pace, has the scale to deliver, do the necessary research, and come up, as I said, with some, findings, or at least indicative findings, by February next year. Because that's the kind of timescale we
If
want
I've
to
got this
work
right,
at.
the study is aiming to look at some relatively quick fixes to do with routing for next year, to do with crowd management only.
We would certainly be looking for some findings which we can implement next year. They may well be longer term findings as well.
Okay. In terms of the scope of our investigation, the Chair said a moment ago nothing should be off the table. In terms of what Assembly Member Whittle raised though about potentially shutting down the carnival, I noted that some of the answers about ticketing were that people would turn up anyway. And I think there's something with this amount of history. Is it even feasible to say this should be shut down? It seems unlikely.
There's a steer from the Mayor in terms of speaking to these companies, is that we're not talking about shutting Carnival down, we're not talking about moving Carnival, and we're not talking about changing the date of Carnival.
That's more of a wider question for the rest of the panel as well. Would you think shutting it down was even a thing that would be considered? What would that do, for example, to race relations in the city?
I think it would have all sorts of downsides. I can't think of really any upside other than that perhaps some people wouldn't turn up, but if they did turn up, I think it would be chaotic and highly dangerous. So I think we need to work with the fact that Carnival does take place in that location on that weekend, and we all need to work together to make it safe. That's the primary and only consideration. And I think studying the crowd dynamics and looking at event management and getting as much advice as we can is hugely important. But I think saying it wouldn't take place would just mean that people would turn up, and it would be very, very damaging for residents of the borough.
I mean, I think we've talked at the previous session about how this has grown up organically. Is it even something that could potentially happen? What effect would it have on the community that you represent?
Me?
Yes.
Sorry. To be quite honest with you, I wouldn't even consider it. It's just not in my thoughts. Where Carnival, as far as Notting Hill is concerned, it's the biggest festival in Europe. It's my roots, what I grew up with from a child, so therefore I have not considered it. And I don't think the thousands of young people coming up in Carnival will even want to hear of it going anywhere else.
Do you want to comment?
From my perspective, Carnival adds to the tapestry of the city. It contributes massively to this city. All we have to do as a group of professionals is make it safer. If you go back to the history of New Year's Eve prior to the fireworks, and I think the first fireworks were on 31st of December 1999 as we switched over. Prior to that, well over 100,000 people turned up to something that didn't happen every year. New Year's Eve was a spontaneous gathering of people in Trafalgar Square and Parliament Square and the Embankment, etc. It was an unregulated event where tens or if not hundreds of thousands of people turned up to celebrate together. I'm not sure we could have ever stopped that. All we could do, and if we go back, I think it was 1982-83, where 2 people unfortunately died, 2 young ladies died in Trafalgar Square. the event grew organically. It's grown to what it is now, and it's grown into quite a safe event, which is a world-class event, which is featured across the world and showcases London PLC. And if we can grow Carnival exactly the same way, and we can make Carnival safe by doing things that we need to do, that is the ideal solution, which again would showcase London across the world.
I think that's absolutely right. I think that is a sentiment of this committee, is we actually see the benefits of Carnival. We want Carnival to continue and flourish, but in that context, we need to support you and make it more safe. Because if we continue, it's like the same old thing. If you continue doing what you did before, the chances are something bad could happen, and then that would be a threat to Carnival. So we must avert that, and that is the spirit of the recommendations that I think we'll be working. But within that context, we must consider and talk about things like ticketing and moving, just as part of our work. We'd be interested, obviously, in these high-level terms of reference